Namo Buddhaya. The hidden truth about love that most people learn too late. You know what's fascinating? We spend our entire lives chasing love, building relationships, searching for that perfect connection with another person. And yet, most of us have absolutely no idea what love actually is. We confuse it with something else entirely, and that confusion ruins relationships, creates suffering, and leaves us wondering why we keep getting hurt by the very thing that's supposed to bring us joy. Today, I want to share with you a perspective on love that comes from ancient wisdom, but it's so relevant to our modern dating world that it might completely change how you approach your relationships. And fair warning, this might challenge everything you've been told about what it means to love someone. Let me start with a question that might make you uncomfortable. Think about your current relationship or your last serious relationship. When you said, "I love you" to that person, what did you really mean? Were you saying, "I want to give you happiness"? Or were you actually saying, "I need you to make me happy"? Be honest with yourself here, because this distinction is everything. It's the difference between a relationship that brings peace and one that brings endless drama and disappointment. Most of us, if we're truly honest, have been on the wrong side of this equation more times than we'd like to admit. Here's the reality that nobody wants to face. What most people call love is actually attachment disguised as affection. It's neediness wrapped up in romantic language. It's two people clinging to each other out of fear of being alone, calling it devotion. And the problem with attachment is that it inevitably leads to suffering, because you're essentially saying to another person, "You are responsible for my happiness, and if you fail to deliver, I'm going to be hurt and angry and resentful." That's not love. That's emotional hostage-taking. True love operates from a completely different foundation. When you truly love someone, your primary concern is their well-being and happiness, even when that happiness doesn't directly benefit you. Think about that for a moment. True love says, "I want you to flourish. I want you to be your best self. I want you to experience joy. And if I can be part of that journey, that's beautiful. But if your path to happiness leads you away from me, I still want you to take it." That sounds crazy in our possessive, jealous, "you're mine" culture, doesn't it? But that's because we've been conditioned to think that love means ownership, when it actually means liberation. Let me give you a concrete example of how this plays out in everyday relationships. Imagine your partner gets an incredible job opportunity in another city. The attachment response is immediate fear, resistance, maybe even anger. "What about us? What about our plans? You're being selfish." Notice how all of those reactions are about protecting your own interests, your own comfort, your own vision of how things should be. The true love response looks completely different. It starts with genuine excitement for your partner's opportunity, then moves into problem-solving mode about how to support them, whether that means moving together, trying long distance, or even acknowledging that this might change the relationship's trajectory. True love prioritizes their growth and happiness first, then figures out how you fit into that picture. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. That sounds like being a doormat. That sounds like sacrificing your own needs and just letting people walk all over you. But that's a fundamental misunderstanding. True love doesn't mean you have no boundaries or that you tolerate mistreatment. It means your motivation comes from a place of genuine care rather than selfish desire. You can absolutely have standards, communicate your needs, and even walk away from relationships that aren't healthy for you, all while coming from a place of love rather than attachment. The difference is internal. Attachment says, "I need you to be different so I can be happy." Love says, "I want the best for both of us," and sometimes that means making difficult choices. There's this beautiful analogy about flowers that perfectly captures this distinction. When you're attached to something beautiful, your instinct is to possess it. You see a gorgeous flower and you pluck it, bring it home, put it in a vase. And what happens? It dies. You killed the thing you claimed to love by trying to own it. True love sees that beautiful flower and waters the plant. True love nurtures and supports the flower's growth in its natural environment, allowing it to be what it's meant to be, even though you don't get to control it or keep it to yourself. Which approach do you think leads to more beauty in the world? Which approach do you think leads to more happiness in relationships? Let me take this deeper, because understanding the roots of attachment versus love changes everything about how we approach relationships. Attachment comes from fear and scarcity. It operates on the belief that love is a limited resource, that if you don't hold tight to this person, you'll lose your chance at happiness. It's driven by insecurity, by the feeling that you're incomplete without another person filling some void inside you. And here's the cruel irony. The tighter you grip out of fear of loss, the more you push the other person away. Think about trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze your fist, the more the water escapes between your fingers. Attachment operates exactly like this. True love, on the other hand, comes from abundance and security. It recognizes that you are already whole, already complete, and that a relationship is about two whole people choosing to share their lives, not two halves desperately trying to become one. When you love from this place, there's no frantic grasping, no constant anxiety about whether the other person still loves you, no need to control their every move or check their phone or demand constant reassurance. You're secure enough in yourself that you can give freely without keeping score, without immediately asking, but what am I getting in return? Now let's talk about what true love actually requires, because it's not just some abstract feeling. It's built on specific qualities that you need to actively cultivate. First, there's loving kindness, which means genuinely wishing for the other person's well-being and happiness, not in a vague, theoretical way, but as a consistent practice in how you think about them and act toward them. When they succeed, you celebrate without a shred of envy. When they struggle, you support without judgment or the secret satisfaction of being needed. Then there's compassion, which goes even deeper than kindness. Compassion means the willingness to feel another person's pain, to sit with them in their suffering without trying to fix it or minimize it or make it about you. Most people are terrible at this. When someone we care about is hurting, we immediately want to solve the problem, or tell them why it's not that bad, or share our own worse experience. Real compassion says, I see your pain, I feel it with you, and I'm here. That's it. No agenda, no fixing, no redirecting, just presence and genuine empathy. Patience is another crucial component that's severely lacking in modern relationships. We live in an instant gratification culture where everything is supposed to be perfect right now, where any conflict or difficulty is seen as a sign that the relationship is doomed. True love recognizes that people grow and change at different paces, that working through difficulties together actually strengthens the bond, that your partner doesn't need to be perfect or meet all your needs immediately. Patience means giving space for growth, for mistakes, for learning. It means understanding that love is a practice, not a destination. Here's something that might blow your mind. The best example of true love that most of us have already experienced is the love our parents had for us when we were infants and young children. Think about it. When you were a baby, you contributed absolutely nothing of value. You screamed, you disrupted their sleep, you required constant attention, you couldn't hold a conversation or reciprocate affection in any meaningful way. You were objectively a drain on their time, energy, and resources. And yet, they loved you fiercely. They celebrated your tiny achievements. They found joy in your presence despite the enormous burden you represented. They kept giving and giving and giving, expecting nothing in return except maybe a smile or a giggle. That's the model for true love in romantic relationships too, except between adults, it becomes mutual. Both people are giving freely. Both people are prioritizing the other's happiness. Both people are showing up with kindness and compassion and patience. And paradoxically, when both people operate from this place of true love rather than attachment, both people end up happier than they would be if they were constantly demanding and expecting and scorekeeping. But here's where this gets challenging, and I want to be really honest with you about this. Loving without attachment means being willing to lose the person. It means being okay with the fact that they might choose a different path, that the relationship might end, that your futures might diverge. And that terrifies people. We want guarantees. We want promises. We want to know for certain that if we invest our love, we'll get a specific return. But true love doesn't work like that. True love is a gift you give freely, without strings attached, without contracts or conditions. This doesn't mean you should stay in unhealthy relationships or tolerate behavior that harms you. This is important to understand. True love includes self-love, and self-love means having boundaries and standards. If someone consistently mistreats you, if they're abusive or manipulative or unfaithful, loving them doesn't mean accepting that treatment. It might mean loving them enough to be honest about the problems, giving them the opportunity to change, but also loving yourself enough to walk away if they won't. The difference is that you do this from a place of clarity and strength, not from reactive hurt and vindictive attachment. Let me share something that might help you evaluate your current relationship or your pattern in past relationships. Ask yourself these questions. When you think about your partner's dreams and goals, even the ones that don't involve you, do you feel excited for them or threatened? When they spend time with friends or pursue hobbies without you, do you feel secure or anxious? When they're going through a difficult time, is your first impulse to understand their experience or to make it about how their struggle affects you? When you disagree about something, are you trying to win the argument or to understand their perspective? Your honest answers to these questions will reveal whether you're operating from love or attachment. Here's another critical distinction that I think gets lost in our culture. Attachment asks, "Why aren't you making me happy?" True love asks, "How can I contribute to your happiness?" Notice the complete reversal of responsibility and focus. Attachment is inherently selfish, even when it's dressed up in romantic language. It's using another person as a tool for your own emotional fulfillment. True love is inherently generous. It finds fulfillment in the act of giving, in the practice of caring, in witnessing another person thrive. And this brings us to one of the most profound truths about love that most people learn way too late, if they learn it at all. You cannot receive true love until you're capable of giving it. If you're operating from attachment, from neediness, from that desperate hunger to be filled up by another person, you'll attract other people operating from the same place. And when two attached people get together, what you get is codependency, drama, manipulation, and eventual resentment. It's two drowning people trying to use each other as a life raft. Nobody stays afloat in that scenario. But when you develop the capacity for true love, when you work on becoming whole and secure within yourself, when you can genuinely prioritize another person's well-being without losing yourself, you become capable of the kind of relationship that actually brings peace and joy and lasting fulfillment. You attract people who are also capable of true love because you recognize it when you see it, and you're no longer interested in the drama of attachment-based relationships. So how do you make this shift? How do you move from attachment to true love? It starts with brutal honesty about your current patterns. Look at your relationship history without the rose-colored glasses. Notice the patterns of behavior that keep repeating. Acknowledge the ways you've tried to control partners, the ways you've made their choices about you, the ways you've kept score or manipulated or used guilt or fear to get what you wanted. This isn't about beating yourself up. It's about seeing clearly so you can choose differently. Then you work on building security and completeness within yourself. This is the hardest work, and it's work you have to do regardless of your relationship status. Develop your own interests, your own friendships, your own sense of purpose that doesn't depend on another person validating you or completing you. Learn to be comfortable alone. Learn to meet your own emotional needs instead of outsourcing that responsibility to a partner. This isn't about becoming cold or independent to the point of not needing anyone. It's about becoming secure enough that you can be genuinely interdependent, which is completely different from codependent. Practice loving kindness actively, starting with yourself. Most people who struggle with attachment-based love actually don't love themselves. They're looking for someone else to give them the acceptance and compassion they won't give themselves. Start a daily practice of genuinely wishing yourself well, of speaking to yourself with the same kindness you'd show a good friend. Then extend that practice to others, including people you don't particularly like. This trains your brain to generate love as an internal state rather than a reaction to whether someone is meeting your needs. Let me leave you with this final thought because I think it ties everything together. The goal isn't to never feel attachment or desire or the need for connection. We're human beings. We're wired for bonding and intimacy. The goal is to recognize when you're operating from attachment so you can consciously choose to shift back to love. It's a practice, not a destination. You'll mess up. You'll catch yourself being possessive or needy or trying to control. And when that happens, you have a choice. You can defend those behaviors and stay stuck in the pattern, or you can acknowledge them, understand where they're coming from, and choose differently. True love is the most challenging and most rewarding thing you can cultivate in your life. It requires you to be vulnerable without being needy, strong without being controlling, giving without being depleting. It asks you to face your deepest fears about loss and abandonment and choose connection anyway. But the alternative, living in constant cycles of attachment and disappointment and heartbreak, is so much worse. You deserve relationships built on true love. The people in your life deserve to be loved truly rather than clung to desperately. And the world desperately needs more people who understand this distinction and choose to love from that higher place. So I want you to really sit with this. Examine your relationships honestly. Make the commitment to shift from attachment to true love, knowing it will be difficult and knowing it will be worth it. Because when you finally experience what it's like to love and be loved without all the grasping and fear and neediness, you'll wonder how you ever settled for anything less.